This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy and Gary Vasilash, episode 548 for March 18th of 2021. Battle for the EV market. Do legacy automakers stand a chance? Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey, and by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Yo, Gary.
John, how are you?
Living the dream, man. Here I am on After Hours again.
Indeed you are. So, a couple of weeks ago, we had the chief engineer for the new MDX on, and I had that car last week, and that was the first time I had a chance to drive it. He wasn't kidding. It really is a nice car.
No, I just had a chance to go through the whole thing, too, and it was a dream to drive. Yeah, they did a good job.
So when I was researching the topic to quiz you on this week, I came upon something that you would not get. But this is an interesting story that I think is germane. And we're going to be talking about electric vehicles on the show. And this brings me to Studebaker, which in 1902 started building EVs. I mean, it made an EV before it made a gasoline
Now
powered
that
car.
I did not know. I knew they were into cars. I didn't know they made electric ones.
So they made them from 1902 to 1911, and then they started making gasoline earlier, but they just kept on with gasoline. But the interesting thing is that, okay, coming out of the Great Depression in 1933 on March 18th, the company went into receivership. It owed $6 million to the banks at the time, which in today's dollars is $121 million. So a non-trivial amount for a company back then. So the then president was a guy by the name of Albert Erskine, and he was removed. And this poor guy committed suicide on July 1st of 1933. And the thing that is so striking, and this is sort of typical of what's going on now, is the fact that things changed so rapidly that by December, Studebaker was back in the black. I mean, it's just very, very shocking to me. And then as another high coincidence, that on March 17th, 1966, which was yesterday's anniversary, they built their last car on a production line in Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. So you know how Studebaker really got going, don't you?
Do tell.
Making Conestoga wagons for the Northern Army during the Civil War. They had started before that, but they landed a massive contract, and the rest is history.
All right, so on to your quiz for today.
Okay.
And this is recent history. 2018. Something happened in 2018 with big ramifications.
On this day.
On this day.
2018. You got me. What is it?
The Uber accident in Arizona.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that made headlines around the world. First autonomous vehicle fatality.
So I give you these things that, go back to '04, and the answer. I give you one that's just like 3 years ago. And you're like, oh.
And don't you dare ask me what I had for breakfast.
All right, on with the show.
Hey, let's bring in Jeff Gilbert, who's also joining us. Hey there, Jeff.
Hello. Are we going to talk about electric Conestoga wagons today?
No, I don't think we're going to do that. How are things in WWJ Newsradio 950 Radio Land?
Oh, things are wonderful. I'm sitting in the WWJ Automotive headquarters, which happens to be my little loft at my house, celebrating a year of working from home.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Well, yeah, let's bring in our special guest for today, too. Rob Mantinan. He is the program engineering manager for the Chevrolet Bolt EV and EUV. And Rob, good to have you on the show.
Thanks, John. I'm glad to be here. Really excited.
Good deal.
So Rob, before we get to the cars, tell us about you. I mean, how did you get to General Motors? Where'd you go to school? Why'd you go into the auto industry? Just give us a little flavor.
Yeah, so actually, I got into the auto world through my dad. He worked for GM. He was a blue-collar UAW worker in Warren at our pre-production operations. And he handed me a brochure in high school about Kettering University, right, when I was thinking about where I wanted to go. So I landed there. The thought of, getting real-world experience during school was, really appealing to me. And I fell in love with the school and all the workshops they had there. So, one thing led to another. Right after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I started at GM.
So Rob,
right from college.
Did you specialize in electrics, electronics, or all mechanical?
I have a mechanical engineering degree and with a specialty in automotive powertrain. So, and then I got my master's degree while I was at GM in energy systems engineering. So I have kind of a mixed bag of education experience. So
why automotive and not another industry?
I grew up in the Metro Detroit area. It's what I know. I was in auto shop in high school. I had a Camaro. I love to work on that car, and it just became a passion of mine. And EVs for me came later. When I started my career at GM, I was working on the Gen 1 Volt. So I've basically been working on EVs throughout my whole career in the auto industry.
So you had a Camaro, you specialized in powertrain and stuff. To me, that's a piston head guy. How's the whole EV thing going?
Well, I got sold on it. To be honest with you, I got converted pretty quickly working on the Volt. It was, at the time, it was a breakthrough technology, and it was a dream to be able to be a part of that, watch it through to production, launch it. I was part of the launch team on that car. So really just, I've turned in from a piston guy into an EV guy, I guess I would say. And to me, I can't see going back really, other than as a toy. I still obviously like my toys, but.
So you're ready to jump in there when they do the electric Camaro? The electric Corvette?
Yeah, that I can't comment on, but when that day comes,
trying.
I can't comment on future products, but yeah, GM's on a path to an EV future, so we're excited to bring it, at all levels of the company.
Rob, tell us a little bit. What exactly does a program engineering manager do?
So essentially, I'm responsible for the whole program, and I have to make sure that we take the program basically through the what we call the vehicle development process. So I'm kind of like the shepherd. I approve all of the engineering work orders whenever we make changes to the vehicle, and I kind of oversee. I work for the vehicle chief engineer, and so I'm kind of like his right-hand man.
So Rob, let me ask you this. Okay, so you start out, you're a piston head, and you've made this transition now where you're full in on EVs, both professionally and it sounds like personally. And so why EVs? There are a lot of people who just think this is just going to be like a CB radio and just going to go away.
Well, personally, I think that it makes sense from an engineering standpoint as far as, you've got this infrastructure out there that can provide electricity to your house and a distribution network that can provide you the ability to fill up your car at home. So you're cutting out, your daily stops or your weekly stops, and you're able to fuel it off of many different sources of energy, right? So you take out the one source of energy. So it's better, I think, for the environment. It's a more direct way to power the car. And it just, to me, makes very logical sense. It cuts out steps in the process.
Do you find yourself having to educate and maybe even debate some of your piston head friends? Because I'm sure you've made a lot of friends over the years who have gasoline in their veins, who may have preconceived notions about electric vehicles.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have to debate with them. I think, we're still in a mode where the piston engine isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So there's options for everyone, for people that like to have, like you said, that have fuel in their veins. And I have a lot of friends who race and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I don't debate with them, but I think more and more what I've seen is people shifting slightly on this and seeing more options, more openness to it. And so I think it's only a matter of time before we get more butts in seats. And that's what we've always said. When we get butts in seats, people get converted pretty quick. So.
Yeah, don't you think a lot of the change has got to do with, if you go back a ways, electric cars were pokey. I mean, they were slow and they didn't look all that good. And now we've got blistering performance. We've got really good looking cars. To me, that alone is a game changer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And offering more choice, right? I think that's the other part is there was pretty limited choices before, but the choices are coming. And with that, I think will come expanded adoption. By the way, I'm not familiar with any slow EV cars because I've never driven a slow one myself. I've never worked on a slow one, but ours have always had pretty good pep. And I think that's one of the things when people get in a Bolt EV, they're just surprised. They're blown away at how quick the car is, how responsive it is. And that's, I think, one of the selling points, really. It's like, I like to say it's like going from analog to digital,
So let's talk about the Bolt EUV. Okay, this is a new variant of the Bolt that perhaps more people are familiar with. Give us an overview of what this vehicle is.
So essentially, it's built on the proven propulsion system and architecture of the current Bolt EV. And what we've done is we've taken that architecture and we've lengthened the wheelbase about 3 inches, and the vehicle itself is about 6 inches longer overall. So what we're able to do there is basically give increased rear seat legroom for the passengers in the back seat. And that's one of the things our customers told us on the Bolt EV was that they wanted more passenger space in the vehicle. So that's from kind of like a vehicle packaging standpoint. And then we've changed the aesthetic of the car to give it a more SUV aesthetic, which, as you guys, I don't have to tell you, it's kind of all the rage in the industry. So we think we're coming in at a sweet spot here with an SUV type product on the proven technology of the Bolt EV, which has really, for us, really, really good customer satisfaction. So we just think, we're going to hit a great sweet spot here with this product. And, on top of that, it's a whole new interior, all new exterior update, a lot of new technology in the car. We've made all of the active safety features on the current car. They're now standard. All of the forward active safety features like collision imminent braking and forward collision alert and lane keep assist, pedestrian detection, all that stuff is now standard. We call that Chevy Safety Assist. And then we've just refined throughout the vehicle. Ride and handling has all been retuned, and steering. So I think, Gary, you got to experience that when you drove the car. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's interesting that you say that you tuned suspension, steering, things like that. Does that apply to the EV, the Bolt EV, or just the EUV?
Both of them. Yep, they've both been completely retuned. So
go into some detail. Yeah, give us. What'd you change and why?
Spring rates and damper tuning, essentially. We got a little feedback. The current car has more of a sportier dynamic to it. I would say it's a little harsher. That's kind of the feedback we got, was it's a little too harsh. So we tried to strike a better balance so that we've made the ride more compliant, but we're still holding on to the sporty handling of the vehicle for the most part. I think our team really hit it out of the park there.
Now, the EUV adds a little more space, a little more utility. You're not quite up to where somebody would have as a full crossover, but who do you see as a person who would want that as opposed to the Bolt EV?
I mean, in my opinion, we're shifting a little more mainstream, right? The EV is, more of a 5-door. It's kind of a little more niche body style in this market, and the EUV is just going to be more appealing for your general mainstream customer.
Rob, you mentioned it's based on, and this is your word, the proven Bolt EV platform. Explain to us a little bit about what that is and why this fact that it's been proven is important to consumers.
Well, we've been at it for a while, right? We launched the Bolt EV in the 2017 model year. It was like a late 2016, I think, when we launched it. And so we've now had that product out in the market for many years, right? So it's, our customers are very familiar with it. They what's the word I'm looking for? They're confident about it, right? With new technology, with EVs, there can be some, uncertainty, but I think we've proven that our product is very reliable. It's very safe, and it's a great option for customers. And because we offer so much range, I think that's the other part, right? Is people just coming into an EV, they might feel a little uncertain, but I think what we've seen and what our customers have told us is once they spend a little time with the car, that fades completely, and the range concerns are kind of mostly gone after a while.
Now I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I've noticed that myself. I mean, like I told you guys, I worked on the Volt, right? Which is the type of product that you charge every day. You're always charging it because you don't want to burn gas or whatever your motivation is, right? But in a Bolt EV, what I found is I can go days without charging, and I feel very comfortable about that. So.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about, obviously, you studied customers from the first generation before you started developing the second generation. What did you learn particularly about their charging habits? Because that's one of the things that I'm most curious about. I mean, do they top it off every night? Do they wait till it gets down to a certain part? How often do they use public chargers? What are some of the things you learned about how people actually charge an EV? Because that's something I've been very curious about.
Yeah, so I don't have the data like at my fingertips, but I think if you looked at it, what you'd find is that it's a mixed bag, right? Some customers want to top off every day, and they may have longer commutes where they need to do that, or they just feel more comfortable having the battery full all the time. The nice thing about that is you're starting every day, unlike a gas vehicle, you're starting every day full. And that's kind of a little bit of a paradigm difference between an EV and an ICE traditional vehicle. But then other customers I know will go a long time, maybe once a week they'll charge it, especially, in the current environment where people aren't driving as much. I mean, they can go long periods of time between charging. And then as far as public charging, our data shows that our customers don't use it that often, but obviously they appreciate having it when they need it. I think upwards of like 90% are just charging daily at home. And that's the most convenient way to charge your EV, right? So I think it makes logical sense.
Rob, rightly or wrongly, the public perception still is that they want more range. And in fact, we got a couple of questions here from Andrew Cruz and Bill Eichenberger, who wondered, Andrew says, why didn't you get it to 300-mile range? And Bill is saying, why didn't you make it 400-mile range?
To make it 1,000.
Yeah, right. We get that question frequently. So we actually just redid the battery chemistry on this car in the model year 20. So we've just recently upgraded it. So for this model year, we're building off that essentially, right?
And what's the number again, just to remind everybody in the audience?
Yeah, so the Bolt EV is 259 miles, and then the Bolt EUV, because it's slightly bigger and slightly heavier with the same system, is 250 miles.
And obviously you didn't decide that you had to go to 300 or 400 miles.
Not on this product. Obviously, the industry is headed in that direction, and I think that makes sense. People want more range, and there's going to be more options coming forward with Ultium. But for this product, your average commuter is driving about 40 or 50 miles a day. And so what my point earlier, right, was that you're filling up, if you need to, you're filling up every day. And, it's as easy as plugging in your cell phone. Your car charges up every day, and you're starting every day with that full range that you're expecting. So what I found driving it is I'm dipping down a couple bars each day, and that's it. So it depends on your use case. If you want to drive longer distances, obviously it's nicer to have more range, and those options will come in the future.
Do you find Bolt owners take many long trips, or do they tend to have two vehicles in a garage and still take an ICE vehicle for a longer trip?
Again, you're going to find a mixed bag there. We have customers who travel in these cars and take road trips in them. You can certainly do that. And then we have customers that use it as their second vehicle, like you said. But, I've done some longer distance traveling in it, like more of like a regional traveler. Like if you can get by with one charging stop, it's like a lunch break. I've taken it to Toronto or Chicago. It really doesn't make, there's not like a huge difference between driving this car or a traditional vehicle in that scenario, for me anyway.
We've got a question here from Jay too, who says, why didn't you increase the DC fast charging capacity? He says 55 kilowatt hours is so 2017.
So going back to what I was telling you guys earlier about when we redesigned these, or when we scoped these products, we listened a lot to what our customers told us. And like I mentioned earlier, they were telling us they weren't DC fast charging very much. So we wanted to leverage the current system without completely redesigning everything to get that increased charging. We're already in the process of doing a new clean sheet design with Ultium. So it didn't make sense to us, for the value we're trying to strike with these products, to go and redesign that. And where we thought actually we could help reduce pain points, because that's a lot of what we're looking at, is how do we ease the pain points for the customer. We were more interested in what we're offering now with the EUV, which is a standard dual level charge cord. So the charge cord that comes with the vehicle can do your level 2 7.7 kilowatt charging. That comes with the vehicle. And then we're also offering like a basic limited electrician installation service through our partnership with Qmerit. So when you purchase one of these vehicles, you'll be able to sign up through our website and have an electrician come out to your home and install that level 2 outlet that you need. And I think that's kind of the first pain point that we wanted to focus on, because we want to get more customers into EVs. And we thought that was the better way to do it than focusing on DC fast charging.
So Rob, for people who are not familiar with this, so the charging stations that they may see in parking lots at shopping malls or grocery stores or what have you, those are level 2 chargers. Is that correct?
They can be. They can also be DC fast chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So there's both out there, and there's a lot of DC fast chargers going in. It's still very early. That's the other thing from an infrastructure standpoint. It's still very early, right? The DC fast chargers that can do the faster charging, they're being put in, but that hasn't really fully built out yet. And there's a lot of obvious emphasis going into that. So I think for the faster charging, right, when Ultium comes out, it's going to be aligned more with the infrastructure at that point.
Right.
So,
what you're saying about making decisions for this product are very interesting, in the sense that you've got a price point that you've got to hit. And General Motors is handicapped at the moment because you're out of federal tax credits. Talk a little bit about how that drove some of the decisions that you guys made, i.e. not adding more batteries for longer range, not upping the fast charging capability and the like. I'm sure the price that you want to sell this car at was a key driver in decisions that you made.
Well, I mean, it absolutely is, right? But we wanted to, I think aligned with the Chevrolet brand, we wanted to bring a high amount of value because we want to get more people into an EV. And given our data and our customer research from the current product, we know we have a winning product. We just wanted to bring it down to a level where it's more available and more accessible to more people. So that was our focus. We didn't focus on, hitting that top charge rate because we don't think that it was the best way for this product to bring more people into the fold, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
One of the things that you guys added, a unique thing in many regards so far, is you have Super Cruise in the Bolt EUV. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is super exciting for me personally, and I'm so glad because I got to experience this technology pretty early on when we launched it in the CT6. I took a long drive to Philadelphia, and it just blew my mind. Like just the fact that when I got there after a 10-hour drive, I was not, ready to hit the hotel room. I, was ready to go out, and it's going to fit so well with this product because, part of what I didn't realize before I got into it was how great it made commuting or traffic jams on the freeway, and just being able to kind of sit back and let the car take a lot of the driver workload off your shoulders. It's such a pleasant way to commute or travel. And the fact that we're bringing it into this product is really important, I think, because the price point is so much more attainable. We're going to get so many more people to get into this system, and I'm just so excited for the customers to experience it.
Do you think you might get some sales just because it has Super Cruise and the electric part of the vehicle is secondary for somebody who says, hey, I want this cool technology?
It's certainly possible, but I think, you're getting a lot of cool technology, right? Not just Super Cruise, but the EV technology as well. So, yeah, I don't want to speculate. I'm sure there will be people who purchase it maybe more for the Super Cruise than the EV, but hopefully we'll make a convert out of them. So,
yeah, I've driven Super Cruise too. I think it's an awesome addition to putting it in the EUV. That could be a game changer for you guys. What I'm curious about is, did you have to change the electronic architecture of the car, or was this something that could be adapted to it?
We didn't, no. So this product has the current version of our electrical architecture. It doesn't have the new VIP system that some of our newer products coming out with. So, but the CT6 was also had that electrical architecture. So we were able to just take the system out of the CT6 and adapt it. It's not identical in this product, but we've used the same general suite of electronic modules and systems to make it work in this product.
So for those who are wondering what the hell we're talking about, Super Cruise, that they may not know, Super Cruise is hands-free driving as well as adaptive cruise controls built in, and
Yep.
It's on divided highways, and you guys have like 160,000 miles or so.
I think it's about 200,000. Yeah.
That are
so
high def mapped, so the car knows where it is.
Correct. Yep. So we've got all your major interstates and divided highways have all been mapped with precision LiDAR mapping technology, and then we combine that with a driver monitor system. So the driver monitor system makes sure that the driver is paying attention to the road in front of them. And those are the two key enablers that we need to allow customers to take their hands off the wheel.
Rob, I know you can't talk about future product, but where does the Bolt go in the future? As you've noted already, you've got General Motors has got Ultium batteries coming. It's got its own skateboard, if I can use that term, on it. Or do you keep the Bolt and just keep refining and improving it because you've got so much cost already paid for it that would allow you to really get into even more aggressiveness with the pricing?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost the audio right at the beginning of what you were asking. I think I got the gist of your question. I don't want to speculate about the future, of the Bolt EV, but we're so excited to bring these products out now, and we'll see the customer reaction to them, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
So what's your thought? Is the EUV going to cannibalize sales from the EV? Are they going to complement each other? What's your vision of how this is going to roll out?
Yeah, so we've positioned the products in what we call a two-car strategy, right? So they're not on top of each other. There's a little overlap in the middle, but you can't get, an EUV optioned as low as you can an EV, and you can't get like the Super Cruise and some of the more premium features on the EV. Those are reserved for the EUV. So we think that our expectation is that they will complement each other. But we've maintained a high level of flexibility in our production system. So we're going to let our customers and our dealers guide us as far as which one to build more of, but we will have that flexibility, and we do expect there to be, a broad spectrum of customer, desire.
One thing that I have really been noticing with EVs is that the improvements are coming so fast. There's so much change. There's so much new technology. And you take a look at what's coming from GM with the Ultium batteries, and GM has a ton of new products coming. Is there a concern that you may find customers who are just saying, yeah, this is really nice, but we know something really great is coming, and maybe we'll just wait till the next generation of EVs come out?
I mean, it's certainly possible, but I think that with the compelling product that we're offering today, I think that a customer who's in the market for a car isn't going to be waiting. I mean, personally. So,
hey, we've got to take a quick commercial break right here. Give a shout out to our good sponsor, Borg Warner, but we'll be back talking with Rob about the Chevrolet Bolt EV and EUV.
The world is changing at an ever-increasing pace. No matter what the mode of transportation, there is always the need for an efficient propulsion system. And that's exactly what Borg Warner has been doing since the earliest days of the automotive industry. We create innovative mobility technologies that reduce energy consumption and emissions while improving performance. Our proven track record has made us an industry leader in forward-looking propulsion solutions for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles.
All right, we're back with Rob Mantinan talking all about the Chevrolet Bolt EV and EUV. We've got a question here from Phil, too. Let's get back to the price a minute. First, tell us the price points of both vehicles, and then he wants to know, there's talk in Congress of bringing back more tax credits for both General Motors and Tesla. In fact, everything's capped at 200,000 units right now, i.e., if you sell 200,000 EVs, you run out of credits. GM and Tesla have both done that, but there's talk of raising that cap to 600,000. But if that doesn't happen, what Phil wants to know is, how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, so the price points, the Bolt EV starts at $31,995, and that's including destination.
Good for you guys for doing that too. General Motors is, and to my knowledge, the only automaker that includes destination charges when it talks about pricing.
Yep, we like to give the all-in price, and then the EUV starts at $33,995. And then
I'm sure you guys must be talking about that. Do we get the credit? Do we not get the credit? And what do we do if we don't get it?
Yeah, so I mean, we support kind of the early indications that the administration is communicating. But other than that, I can't really comment on it. It would just be speculating. So I mean, when and if that were to happen, we will make adjustments at that time.
Yeah. Good, thanks.
Rob, tell us about some of the changes that were made to the EV That's got a new look to it.
Yeah, the EV. So for the EV, we redesigned the front and the rear end of the car. So we have a all new front end that includes like the hood, the fascia, the lighting, the fenders, and then in the back we have a new lift gate with all new lighting in the back as well. And then the thing I'm most excited about is the all new interior. So we completely redesigned the interior, much more premium, more soft touch materials. And we've gone to our new GM infotainment system that brings wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which, you know, if you haven't experienced that, to me, that's a game changer, not having to deal with any cables in the car. And it's just a really pleasant way to interface with the vehicle. So I think we have all new seats as well, which that was something that we got a lot of feedback from customers on. So we have all new seats now, and we're offering now 8-way power with adjustable lumbar. So we really focused on seat comfort for this car.
And in a completely self-serving way, I would like to thank you for keeping the AM radio, because some EVs are dropping that. So if I can lobby you on that particular point, and it sounds very good.
Yeah, yep, we're glad to offer that. So that is actually a little bit tricky in an EV to do AM, but yep, we're still offering it.
Rob, is that because of electromechanical or electromagnetic interference?
Yeah, yep, basically. Yeah, you get more electrical noise in an EV, and AM is more susceptible to that than other radio technologies. So.
Hey, we've got another question here from Stephen Doherty's. Good question. What are the plans of selling the Bolt outside of North America? Are there any plans? And he especially wants to know about China, or is there a Buick version in China? What's the deal there?
Yeah, so the Bolt EV is a global product. It is today. We sell in the Bolt EV in Korea, which is it's probably our second biggest market outside of North America, and then in Brazil, and also in the Middle East. And then the plan for the UV is essentially to go to those same markets. As far as China goes, we do have kind of like a sister vehicle. The Buick, I think it's the Velite 7, and that's a China product for the China market, built in China. So.
All right, I've got two engineering type questions for you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so one is, you mentioned that you have power seats. Now, as an engineer, do you look at the power seats and go, "Oh my God, I'm just taking away something from the battery"? That's number one. And then number two, you were talking about how you have new front and rear fascias on the Bolt EV.
Yep.
How important are aerodynamics to vehicles like the Bolt?
Okay. So for your first question, I don't spend any time thinking about the electrical energy or power draw of the power seat, to be honest. It's minuscule compared to the energy in the battery. But as far as the aerodynamics of the vehicle, obviously those are very important, and we spent a lot of time on these products making sure we dialed that in right where we needed it to be to meet our range numbers. So aerodynamics obviously factor right into our range that we're able to achieve with the vehicle. So, yeah, we keep the wind tunnel very busy.
We've got a question here from Dave Tuttle. He wants to know, what are the metrics that General Motors is using to measure the progress in developing DC fast charging? My focus is mainly on the Bolt EV. I'm not personally working on the charging, but obviously you have the infrastructure component to it, right? So there's got to be an alignment between the infrastructure and the vehicle systems that are charging. So they kind of go hand in hand. So I know there's a huge team working on that at GM, and we're always trying to chart that out for the future. But I think, if you look at the announcements we've made on the Ultium products, we're
we're planning big improvements for DC charging.
Let me ask you, one other factor that seems to me that would be important in terms of range is mass. Is taking as much mass out something that you guys think about?
Yeah, we're obviously very, very conscious about mass. We track it on a part by part basis, and we scrutinize over it. But the Bolt EV was very heavily optimized when we launched it originally. So from my standpoint, when we went to go reimagine these products, we didn't have to overly focus on mass. It kind of came with the package, with all the work that went into the Bolt EV originally. So, But yeah, mass is very important. Mass, aerodynamics, those are key enablers for range.
Now, the Bolt is made locally at the GM Orion plant. Did you have to do a lot of updating at the plant to make this generation, or were you able to transition more smoothly?
No major, what I would consider to be like a major update to the plant as far as the layout or anything like that, but a lot of little things, a lot of details, went into getting these products to fit. And obviously we did have to add to the body shop to be able to build the new body style for the EUV. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I mean, we had to reconfigure the plant, but not in a major footprint level.
Is there a lot of learnings from manufacturing the Bolt that will go into the next generation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we use so much customer data from the Bolt EV. I like to say we're the tip of the EV spear at GM, right? We're learning all the lessons that we need to kind of pave the way for our future products. And that's how it's always been. The Volt, we learned a ton on the Volt, the Spark EV, and we're always building on what we learn and feeding that forward. Yep.
Okay, another question. This comes from Terrence W., who has a 2020 Bolt EV. He asked actually a bunch of questions, but we've answered a lot of them in the course of the conversation here. But he says, if the anticipated April software update to address battery fire concerns is not successful, is a battery recall still a possibility?
So I don't want to speculate on that. Obviously, we have a huge commitment to our customers as far as this recall goes. Safety is the number one priority at GM, and so we don't take that lightly. We have teams working around the clock right now, developing this state of the art enhanced diagnostics. We're going to roll that out to these vehicles, and in the process, if any batteries need to be replaced or modules within the batteries, that would happen as needed, essentially. And then those enhanced diagnostics are going to go, it fits perfectly with the question you just asked me about, do we use what we learn here on future products? And this is just another enhancement that we're going to make going forward as well.
So I've got another question, and maybe this is more a marketing one than an engineering one, but every brand and almost every model has got some sort of performance derivative. SS for Chevrolet. What do you think? Is there some sort of rally sport or super sport versions of the Bolt in the future?
We'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
All right, so let me ask you more of a question that has to do with what you see going forward from a career point of view, not just for you, but I mean for people who are thinking about getting into the industry. Do you see, people who are, electrical engineers, software engineers, people like this really finding a place, a home at an organization like General Motors? More so than they would have when you started?
I mean, without a doubt, what better place to be? I mean, from a career standpoint, I mean, there's so much opportunity at GM as far as, if you want to do something, we're doing it probably, right? There's someone doing it. There's some role to fill. in this company, and that's one of the most exciting things about working here. Is there's so much opportunity, so many options. It's just such a great place to work. So
do you get to?
I gotta pinch myself sometimes.
Do you get to sneak in and see what the Ultium guys are doing? How close do you follow it, or are you able to follow what Ultium and all the other stuff is doing, just so that you know what's coming down the pike here?
Yeah, I try and stay connected a little bit, but honestly, I mean, I am busy launching these cars. I'll tell you that. That takes up all my time pretty much. But yeah, I like to stay connected when I can, and definitely, like I said, we're feeding forward everything we learn. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
A year ago at this time, you were very much into this project, and then of course, everything stopped. People had to work from home. Were there some interesting things that were done by the engineering team during that time to continue the development to keep it on pace?
Yeah, I mean, we had to adapt really quick. I was actually blown away at how well we were able to just keep everything marching forward. We didn't lose any time on the Bolt EUV at all. So our plans have not changed on that vehicle, and we have had to, there's been a lot of disruption in supply chains and stuff like that. So we've just been kind of fending off those types of issues, left and right. But we're marching forward, and we're excited to launch these products this summer. So.
Real good. Hey, Rob, we're going to have to wrap this segment up, but thanks so much for coming on the show. I have not been in the new EUV yet. I'm dying to get a chance. I know I will get that too, but I'm really excited by what you're talking about here with what you've done at the car.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm excited for you to try it. So
really good.
Can't wait to hear what you think. Yep.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to take another quick commercial break, give a shout out to our friends at Bridgestone, and we're going to be back to talk even more about what's going on in this auto industry. All right, we're back. So what do you think, Gary? Do legacy automakers like General Motors stand a chance against all these startups that are coming at it in all different directions? And not just GM. Can legacy automakers make this transition?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you raised that question. If we look, that Volkswagen held Power Day, and Herbert Diess, who runs the organization, is basically during this presentation that he made then and afterwards has basically said, you know what? We're not going to merely catch up to Tesla. We're going to pass Tesla in terms of what they're going to be doing in terms of electric vehicles. And, I think that there's very good opportunities for these legacy builders because, I mean, what Rob was basically saying about, you know what? We made these Bolts as Chevys, and people know what Chevys are. They're the reliable cars that you can get into and be confident in, and they're not exotic like a Tesla would be. And I think that because of that, they can carve out a space that some of these niche players just can't afford to go into.
Yeah, what do you think, Jeff? Are the legacies going to be able to make the transition?
I think so, but there is still that buzz about Tesla not being a car company, but being a tech company. So they have a little bit of an advantage there in the marketing arena. Now, if I look at GM and EVs, I really, as much time as we spent on the Bolt, I don't look at the Bolt. I look at the Cadillac Lyriq. I look at the Hummer. I look at the Hummer SUV. And you were at their EV day a year ago. It seems so long ago. The Bolt was sitting there, and it paled in comparison to what General Motors has coming. So some of those vehicles are going to be great, but they're also going to be pricey and expensive. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that fits together. I mean, you may lust over a Lyriq, but you can afford a Bolt.
Yeah.
Right. And the same can be said, I think, in the case of Tesla, or, I mean, when the Lucid Air comes out, what the base price of that is over $70,000. I mean, how many people are going to be able to get into that vehicle. And, there's discussions of, the Fisker. I mean, when it, the Ocean comes out, that's going to be, starting, I think, at about 40. And, and we all know what starting price means. It means a vehicle you'll never see, you'll see a unicorn before you see one of those vehicles, right? I mean, and so it's going to be much more expensive going forward. And so I think that, to the extent of vehicles like, like the Bolt or like the Volkswagen ID.4, these are vehicles that, are average price vehicles in the market right now. So, it's a big benefit.
And the one thing that if you look at Volkswagen that they have the ability to do, and they have proven it with their diesel cheating, they can afford to fail. They can afford, I'm serious, we joke about it, but they can afford to make a mistake better than a lot of other car companies can do. So they can recover from that faster. So if this one vehicle doesn't work, they can tweak it and put out something else.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gary, what do you think, John? What do you think about the legacies?
The legacies, well, look, one of the advantages like a Volkswagen has, so many brands, so many different models. It can attack so many different parts of the market, different segments of the market with an electric vehicle that Tesla simply can't. It's got the S, the X, the Y, and the 3. It'll add a few more models, but Volkswagen is just coming with a tsunami of different kinds of models. And General Motors hasn't quite given us all the models that it's got coming, but it plans to do the very same thing. Even so, they've also got to keep this internal combustion engine product line running as it goes through this transition. And while they may stop future development of piston engines, they've still got to maintain all that and the whole supply chain and infrastructure that goes along with it. So they have some advantages, but they've got some big disadvantages too. And when do they pull the plug on the ICE stuff and put the plug solely into the EV? And I think this is going to be a very difficult transition for all the legacy automakers to make. And then you've got some others like, the new Stellantis doesn't have a whole lot going in the lines of electrics. Toyota, the largest automaker in the world, is going to be the last to the party with an electric. So I think it's a very dangerous period for the legacy automakers. And you've got not just startups coming in, but now with the SPAC phenomena, you've got startups with billions of dollars on their hands.
Fair point. One of the interesting things that was announced this week, since we're talking about Volkswagen and batteries and things like that, which I thought was rather surprising, is, so Volkswagen announced that they're going to be building 6 battery plants in Europe because they want the capacity to have batteries. And then they also announced that they're going to go for prismatic batteries. And they've been using pouch style batteries, which they've been sourcing from companies like SK and LG. And suddenly, apparently, according to a Reuters report, that those battery companies were basically blindsided by that announcement that they've spent billions of dollars in getting the capacity to build pouch batteries, and now VW is going cylindrical, which
not cylindrical, prismatic.
Or, sorry, and what strikes me is that historically in the auto industry, supplier relations are an absolutely critical thing to have working well. And I just wonder, is this indicative of, we're now in the Wild West in terms of, people making decisions on the fly?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. And I had not heard that SK and LG were blindsided by this. Wow, that's a bombshell.
And of course, the other thing is all of these car companies are taking their battery production and if not bringing it totally in-house, doing it with a partner as opposed to buying it from a supplier. And I just think it's amazing how fast this is transitioned. I remember when Tesla first announced they were going to build a gigafactory to make batteries, I was thinking, are they going to have way too much capacity for batteries? Now everybody is looking for capacity for batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, and Jeff, I think the interesting thing out of the Volkswagen Power Day, too, is, as you just mentioned, Gary, 6 gigafactories in Europe. They didn't say anything about China. They didn't say anything about the United States. So right off the bat with the United States, we know Volkswagen probably doesn't have the sales volume of vehicles to justify putting a gigafactory in the United States. But with the USMCA, the new NAFTA agreement, unless you have 75% domestic content in your battery, you pay big tariffs on that thing. And the fact that they didn't mention it in China makes me wonder, has China essentially told them, no, you're not going to build your own factories here. You're going to buy from Chinese suppliers? I mean, what do you guys make of the fact that it did not say anything about gigafactories in China or the US?
All right, 2 points I want to make. Number one is, notice how the Techno King, Elon's new title, has caused us to use terms like gigafactory, that he basically coined, right? He
did. You got to credit him with that.
And we're just like saying, oh yeah, everyone knows what a gigafactory. But okay, the European Union has made a decided effort that they want to be battery sufficient. They realize that they were behind the curve in terms of EV technology. And so I think that part of that was Volkswagen playing to the home audience, that they really wanted to emphasize, we're doing this in Europe. So, pay attention, EU leaders, we're doing a good thing. The company with the diesel problem is now going to be part of the solution going forward. I think that's why they said it more than talking about China or the US.
And I also think if they were going to build a factory in the U.S., they've only got one assembly plant in the U.S., so they probably wouldn't need more than one battery factory, and they would make a major announcement here. It's wonderful. We're making an EV battery plant in the U.S. outside Chattanooga or wherever they want to do it. And I would agree with you with China. There's probably a lot of political pressure going on behind the scenes that we know nothing about.
Another thing about these battery factories, too, is they made a big deal about Northvolt, which is their joint venture partner in Sweden, and how it's using hydropower, clean energy to make these batteries. Because as we all know, batteries are extremely energy intensive to manufacture. There's a big carbon footprint. So they made a big deal about going to Sweden using all this clean hydropower, and that was going to have like next to zero kind of a carbon footprint. But then they go and announce that they're going to build 5 other gigafactories that are nowhere near Sweden, and are presumably just not going to have the kind of green energy going into them that the Northvolt plant has.
Well, plenty of windmills and photovoltaics. Don't worry, that's not going to be a problem. But speaking of companies getting into the EV space, I mean, there was the reporting that Foxconn is thinking about building an EV plant either in Wisconsin or Mexico. Now, as some will remember, what was it, about 2017, 2018, Foxconn was going to be building a giant facility in Wisconsin, and they were going to be making, I thought it was LCDs maybe, which came to no fruition. There was also the rumor that Foxconn, because they build iPhones, might be building a car for Apple. So do you guys have any sense of what may be going on with Foxconn?
I tend to, the first thing I thought of when I heard about this was the other factory that was going to have so many jobs that never happened. So it's kind of like Wisconsin versus Mexico. I could see them building a factory to contract manufacture vehicles in Mexico. I see Wisconsin as maybe a lot less likely, but you certainly have to have an American contestant in there as you're looking for other plants. So if I was in Wisconsin, I wouldn't necessarily be holding my breath, getting ready to apply for a job there.
Well, a couple of interesting things. The Foxconn thing, the state of Wisconsin, they gave away the store enticing Foxconn to go there.
And they got?
And they really got nothing for everything that they've invested in it. There's even talk of the state of Wisconsin suing Foxconn over this. So we'll see what happens there. But the other thing is Mexico has a free trade agreement with just about everybody in the world. So if you build cars in Mexico, you can ship them import tariff free to places like China and Europe. And, you've got low labor costs and the like. So that's going to be enticing for Foxconn to want to do it in Mexico. But there's going to be heavy political pressure to put the plant in the United States, especially with the Wisconsin contingent in Washington really pressuring for that to happen. But Gary, the thing that I thought was so interesting is Foxconn, when asked about, are you going to build Apple's car, dismissed it as a rumor. Well, dismissing it as a rumor is not saying no, so they didn't deny it. We also know that Fisker has already contracted both Magna and Foxconn to build cars for it. And Foxconn said, yes, they wouldn't name any names, but they are in talks with other startups to make cars. So very interesting, sort of conglomeration of facts and, pressures and things going on with Foxconn and what it might do in making EVs.
And I don't know if you heard this. This was today when Swami Katagari from Magna was in front of the Society of Auto Analysts. He said they are also looking at a possible site in North America for a contract production factory similar to what they have in Austria. He said it's not a definite done deal now, but this is something that they're looking at if there is production or demand to do that.
That's fascinating, Jeff. I wonder if some of these startups are sort of whipsawing Magna and Foxconn against each other. As they try to negotiate a deal, it's like, oh, if you don't give me a better price, I'm going to go with the other guys.
Well, look at how much leverage Apple would have. You could call them a startup in the auto industry, but they have a ton of leverage. They're probably whipsawing a lot of people right now. And if you recall, when word leaked out about Kia or Hyundai, they quickly backtracked because Apple doesn't like anybody talking about any dealings with them. So everybody's going to be hush-hush because, when Hyundai and Kia got their hands slapped, everybody else listened.
All right, so I got one more, and it's slightly different. It's still in the General Motors space, still in advanced technology space. Cruise buying Voyage. So the AV startup, Cruise was established in 2013, so they're still sort of fresh, sort of. Purchases Voyage. Now, Voyage is also a company that makes AV technology, and they've been running around in the villages in Florida. They've got Pacifica minivans that are taking people who live there around, and they also in a retirement community in San Jose. So here's, I started thinking about that, and I think that application is just absolutely brilliant. I mean, it just seems to me that is exactly, low speed, controlled environment like a retirement community. It's ideal. Cruise is going to be testing some automated taxi service in San Francisco. So here's my question to you guys. Okay, why did Cruise buy them? Is it to get the smart people that Voyage obviously had, and buy the company and get the people? And number two, when all this stuff is said and done, is this going to be technology that people are going to be buying from a company like Cruise to put in their vehicles? So they'll put it in Stellantis vehicles, or they'll put it in Fords, or they'll put it in whatever. And will it be for services, or will it be for individuals like us to buy?
What do you think, Jeff?
Well, my thought is, all I've been thinking of the entire time that you're talking was it 2018 or 2019 when Cruise was supposed to, I think it was 2019, by the end of that Cruise was supposed to launch its automated ride-hailing service in San Francisco, and it's been delayed. So the more we look into this, the more we realize how difficult it is. So A, there's probably some technology that they want in this, and B, I love your idea of the opportunity of a retirement community at low speeds, moving people around. That could have been something that was on their radar as possibly a better use case than an urban area. So I think there are a lot of moving parts here, but again, it seems like this is always technology we're going to see in another year or so, and then it gets bumped back. Then we have the pandemic that bumps it back even more. So it's just an indication of how difficult it is. And here in Michigan, we saw 2 accidents being investigated by the feds within the course of a week involving Teslas.
Yeah, I'm much more bullish on autonomous vehicles, as I have been for many, many years now. I actually think, last year was a milestone in that Waymo had already started delivering autonomous rides in the Phoenix area. Cruise actually did start providing services, not generally open to the public, but it was doing a meal delivery and things like that autonomously. And look, no one, I don't think, should have expected a flick of a switch and all of a sudden there's autonomous cars running everywhere. You got to start somewhere and start expanding. So I think the industry really accomplished something last year, the autonomous industry, by launching services. And to your point, Gary, of doing things in retirement communities, companies like Beep and May Mobility have been doing that for a number of years already. I mean, the autonomous revolution is moving forward. The fact that Cruise bought Voyage, I don't know much about Voyage, so I don't know if there was a technology play. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they were just after the talent. Trying to get experienced coders in AV is not something that you just pick up the phone and start calling and get them. And so I think what Cruise is doing is really impressive. I think they're up to 2,000 employees right now. That's a massive engineering team. So I keep saying by 2025, everybody in the United States will have seen an autonomous vehicle running on the road. I think that we're going to see a rapid ramp up in the next 4 years.
What's the ROI?
The ROI is not selling this technology to other automakers. The ROI is providing a service, becoming an Uber and a Lyft, as it were, but with autonomous vehicles that not only move people, but move packages. During peak day or peak times of the day when people are out and about, i.e. going to work or coming home, then you provide services for moving people, quickly reconfigure the interior at other times and start moving goods, packages, and the like. That's where I think the big payoff is going to be. And so we're going to a world where you no longer just sell cars, you sell miles. As a consumer, we're going to start buying miles, not just buying vehicles.
What do you think, Jeff?
I see a little more consumer discomfort with this than John does, as you see the surveys from J.D. Power and the concern about consumers with consumers.
And remember, Jeff, these are consumers who have never seen an autonomous vehicle and have never been in one. And it's like going back to when Pan Am launched its first flying series. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm never getting up in one of them flying machines. And today, it's like nothing. It's like riding the bus.
I don't disagree with you about the technology. I would disagree about the timing. I think it's going to take longer.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair.
To develop the technology, longer than expected to get the consumer acceptance, and longer than expected to get the return on investment. Those are the areas. Eventually, we'll be there, but not in the near future. And I would agree with you. When you're behind or the rear seat of this technology, and you and I have been in a ton of automated vehicles, it amazes you what they can do. But there's still that fear factor there.
I just keep, I just wonder what the point is. Okay. I mean, it's just like, are we overpaying cab drivers or something? I mean, are bus drivers, like sucking the money out of municipalities? I mean, it's we're putting millions and millions of dollars in terms of developing AV technology, but to what end?
Well, the whole thing, look, here's the dilemma for the auto industry. The average price of a new car in the United States today is $40,000. I guarantee, I shouldn't say guarantee, I will predict that by the year 2030, by the end of this decade, the average price is going to be $50,000. And by the way, we just saw the numbers, the average used car is $22,000. So we're leaving millions of people behind that cannot afford a new car at all, nor can they increasingly afford these used cars, or they're driving some old clunker. So if as a mobility provider, you can go to them and say, look, don't own a car, don't pay for gasoline, don't pay for maintenance, don't pay for insurance. We can get you wherever you need to go at a much lower cost. That's what the auto industry is opening up the opportunity. As it increasingly chases more and more upscale buyers, it's leaving a massive opening at the bottom end of the market. And that's where I think AVs are going to fill the gap.
I just wonder whether, we were talking earlier about EV companies, the new ones versus the legacy companies. I wonder if the traditional auto companies have the logistics knowledge that would be needed to pull off something like that for the consumer. You're shaking your head no for those of you who are in the podcast.
No, I mean, do I think the legacy automakers can make this transition? No, I do not. The only way they can do it is what GM is doing with Cruise. Go do a spinoff in Silicon, or acquire a Silicon Valley spinoff. Keep it as far away from the mothership headquarters as possible. Let them do their own thing, figure it out how to do it on their own, and retain a controlling stock ownership in it. But if a legacy automaker tries to do this, they're just going to get chewed up and spit out. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the cost structure.
What do you think, Jeff?
I agree with John 100. We're not going to argue on that point at all.
Oh, come on.
No, that's why you have that, and that's why you have Waymo, who is servicing other car makers. There are going to be a lot of people who will be going after deals with Waymo in the future to do their service. So, no, I would totally agree there. So I can't argue with you on that one.
All right.
Okay.
So we're at a happy point here. So I guess, there's no argument. I mean, so we should just end the show. There's just no point.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, it was great having you back on.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no. We'll have you back on again in the future. Don't worry about that.
All right.
Thanks,
So
Jeff.
good. And Gary, I'll see you again next week.
Indeed. Take care.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey, and by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday afternoons. Get your daily fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.